think it's important to break down the stereotypes and truly identify what Indigenous male leadership was, Indigenous male identity, or Indigenous masculinity, because there's also oftentimes, I believe, a romanticized version of it. But in order for that to happen, I think we should also point out and acknowledge that amongst Native country, there existed a variety of different social structures. Some were matrilineal, some were patrilineal, male-led, like where I come from, the O'atam, and some were a mix of what people call today egalitarian systems, which is what we practice with my wife in our household, a balance of responsibilities, of decision making in the home and the future of us, our children, and our well-being. It's important to acknowledge these things. And where I come from is Autumn male-led. The Chukchaj, the men did lots of the leading and the decision-making of affairs. Though it was said that those men would leave the council of affair, they'd have a lodge, they'd go in and they would, talk about affairs. They would leave that, they'd go home and they'd talk to their women. Sometimes their women might give them insight. Man might take that in consideration and come back to the meeting. Those are some different things that I've heard from where I come from. And then you also have, of course, a lot of Native nations that are matrilineal, like the Dene people are matrilineal. I have a lot of friends that are Dene here, talk about, the clan, they follow their mom's side. But the one that I'm most familiar with is the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy, the Longhouse people, which is first started off as a confederacy of 5 nations, and then later on they added another to become 6. And they are a matrilineal society, meaning that the mother carries the clan. So if you have a mother who's a wolf clan and you got the father who's a bear clan, the children that they birth together follow the mama's clan. They become wolf clan. And this is their system of checks and balances, and this is their system that keeps their gene pool functioning and happening in a good way. And this is what's really important to Native people. All Native nations had clan systems that ensured that they weren't marrying or having children with their relatives. They understood that early on. And so once again, what I always say where I come from, even though we were male-led, it would be really hard for us to function in that same way, in the way we did historically, considering today we have an influence of Western patriarchal ideology in the minds of many men. You have that compounded with grief, trauma, from PTSD, from historic intergenerational trauma. So we have these 2 compounding factors that, in my opinion, would make it virtually impossible to function as a healthy male-led system with the current issues that we are having as far as the masculinity crisis in our communities. And another point I want to go back and make about the Haudenosaunee is that the clan mothers play a very specific role. You have the sachems, or the chiefs, and they're actually put into their role by the women. And if the man doesn't keep up his duties and his responsibilities, it's those women that vote him out, and they take away his horns. There's a lot of resources already about that online that inform of how that process is. I can't speak on that to the degree. I think it's really important it's a great example to acknowledge that this is one very prime example of women's roles in the pre-colonial society, which it still functions that way, of course, in those communities. And of course, every community, we have a lot of healing to do. But it is still in effect of these matrilineal societies, led by matriarchs, by strong, powerful women. It's still happening all throughout Native country.